thought of this too.
Well, I guess budget committee part budget. Technical honors really challenged. Budget committee second session. Call to order. Just a recap. Huh? Oh yeah. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Love it.
Randy or Dr. Bernal, do you have anything to say before we move on with any questions? Or, let me see.
Action item.
Oh, action item. So has everyone reviewed the meeting budget minutes from last week? Anyone have any noticeable changes or any additions? Or would someone like to move for approval of the budget or the minutes as submitted?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. So our next item is to continue reviewing the budget, the proposed budget for the 25-26 document. So at this point, actually, I'll see if.
Thank you.
Randy, yeah.
So there were some hanging questions last time. One of them was from the public, and it occurred to me what the answer was while I was driving home. I said, the total dollars attached to Chenoweth were unusually high, and the cost per student were high. It's because of the seismic activity there is attached to that building. So there's a couple of $1 million. So without that, their cost per student is within $9 of being the same as Dry Hollow. So there was $2+ million of movement. It belongs there. It's attached to that building, but it's certainly not an operating cost.
And just to clarify for everyone's knowledge, that particular work had a grant attached to it as well, so it wasn't even really budgeted fully by the district. There's some grant funding in there.
Exactly, entirely, almost entirely.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, it's budgeted so we can spend it, but it's revenue. We'll receive the same amount of revenue. Secondly, Jared asked a question. We were looking at functions 1280 and 1284, why they went down so much. So I need to back up. Earlier I told you that one of the programs, the lead program that we eliminated was the Therapeutic Learning Center at Chenoweth Elementary for low census. In 1280, there was also a salary and benefits for the student success coordinator, and those duties have been reassigned. So they're charged to a different function. The biggest, the change that I didn't speak to last time that needs to be is the Kelly Avenue School is 1284, and we have discontinued the contract with Nextdoor Incorporated to run that school. It's about a dozen kids or so. They then came to us and agreed. They still got 2 classrooms and a teacher and all that, and they have stepped up to say they would run the program even without our contract. But not for all students. So they're going to run it as an education program and a day treatment program, but the students that they will serve are the ones that they can bill the Oregon Health Plan for treatment. So if it's half, then the other half come back to the high school and or Innovations Academy. And then part of and I'm not convinced that we'll get it launched in time. Part of their proposal was they have 2 classrooms and they would like to extend that day treatment part of the program to the middle school as needed. So, but the contract amount was slightly over $200,000, and so that's moved out of 1284 because we're not paying it anymore. So that's why those when you noticed it went down 300 and some thousand, that 200 of it is that, and 100 and something is the other salary that was attached to the student success, so.
And so that was the major discrepancy in the FTE
Yes.
was part of that.
Yes, there were
You guys had with them.
two
Okay.
teachers, one, anyway.
Okay.
And then, so we talked some last time about FTE, which is a rather inexact science. What's proposed, the comparator on there is budgeted FTE last year, which I'm now convinced wasn't entirely accurate when I grabbed this thing to try to put it together. The other one is that you need to recognize when we start the budget process, we pull current staff from the payroll records into a payroll personnel budgeting module. And so everybody that's on staff February, whatever it is, when we start, goes over, their FTE goes over. So that number was in the low 400s, not 417. Then I described what we took out, and I think I need to put some more color on that. Namely, how are we going to get the job done that those people were doing? And furthermore, I think some clarity on whether or not any employees got displaced or those were vacant jobs that we eliminated. So I'll go through them again. The nutrition services director was already vacant, and that work has now been incorporated into the Sodexo food service contract. And so they provide a manager, and the district does not employ one anymore. Similarly, the operations director was a district position, and that position, the facilities management is incorporated in the Sodexo contract for facilities as well. That particular person, that job was occupied, so the directorship went away and the person moved back to the job he had before in the facilities department. So, still on. We eliminated the district-wide athletic director. Those duties are now assigned partially to the high school vice principal, and the middle school has their own athletic director that gets a stipend for doing that work. Used to be I could give the middle school athletic director like an extra prep per day to do that, but the schedule's getting tight enough that they have to do it after school. So we give them like a coaching contract for each season. There was, in the licensed staff, there were 4 reductions. The first was a behavior specialist, kind of a child development specialist kind of person. That position was vacant and had been vacant for a good portion of the year, so we chose not to fill that one. The high school teacher that was doing student success, which was the one that we eliminated up above, those duties are now part of the high school vice principal's job. So there's a student success AD vice principal. We eliminated 2 middle school teaching positions. The enrollment at the middle school has plateaued some, but it's significantly smaller than it used to be. It used to be in the low 600s, and now it's 500. And so in consultation with the principal, can you make this work with can you make your schedule work with 2 less teachers? The answer was yes. Both of those positions were vacant. So again, no one displaced. The ESP world, that was the receptionist district office, currently occupied, but they've been hired into a different position, and so we're planning to leave that one vacant. And then the other ESP job was a high school in-school suspension, not secretary, but manager, if you will. There were 3 positions that were melding into 2. There was a, attendance secretary and a counseling secretary in this. So 2 people are going to do what 3 used to do. So that's a total of 9 that came out, but we added 3. So the net is 6. We added this high school vice principal is in the budget that's going to take up these other duties. There's a high school vice principal at Innovations Academy. It continues to grow, and we didn't. Dr. Bernal. Anyway, the intensive program from the state grant will pay the entirety of the middle school vice principal job. And the other one, if you adding 3 back, is the maintenance director. So he's not a director, but he's a maintenance guy. So that's a net no change. So net 6, that tallies with what I believe was more accurate when we pulled the people over. What I try to do when we pull those over, and sometimes we miss one, is vacant jobs that I know they're going to want. I pull them over anyway and make a placeholder, pretend somebody's in that job so I can budget salary. And it doesn't always work out. That we don't fill them all, but I have capacity to fill them. And again, the budget is all about authority to spend. And so we need to put placeholders in there so that if that job gets filled, that it fits within the budget. There's also a number of other small jobs that we don't attach any FTE to, like coaching positions, because they're seasonal. There are some extra duty, you're going to be the ASB advisor or the senior class advisor. They get salary for that, but no FTE goes with that. So now what I proposed in this budget, I believe is almost accurate. My best estimate of accurate FTE going forward. And I think, and Jose's question was more about sort of a summary of those positions gained and lost. And I can still do that. The challenge to get it in time for this group is some of that is at the minute these things are going to the printer. I'm ready, I got to take this out. So there can be a reference to it, and there is a comparison of the FTE that's included in the document itself, just not a summary. But I want the committee to know what the totals are. And that, I got some questions by email, and one of them was about what's the magnitude of Title II, because we talked that maybe Title II and III would go away. Title II was 260 something, including some carryover from prior years. My belief is that we'd be able to spend carryover, that the new grant might not show, may or may not. Title III is about 105,000. That's for English language learners. Don't know. I budgeted. If it doesn't show up, we'll have to do it without the grant funds. The people are already on the job. Pardon me. We just can't charge people to the grant if it doesn't show up. So I don't think any people are attached to that grant now, but the service still needs to be done, I guess. So the general fund would have to do whatever that is. Again, I think a reasonable conservative estimate of revenue, and this was, as we talked last week, quite a challenge to deal with this sudden increase in payroll taxes that made the cost of doing business just went up by 12% every place I had people. So I don't know if the committee has, I'm happy to answer whatever I can. If the committee has any other questions, you've had a week to think about it. Has anything else come up? If not, I frankly don't know what else to tell you.
I have a question.
Yeah. Good.
Oh, good. You might not. I don't know.
There's
button
a
at the
little
bottom.
gray button at the bottom.
Yep.
Yeah.
Your life.
Hi.
Yeah.
So I know nothing about school district budgeting or anything like that, but
That's
I
two
did-
of us.
Oh, thank you, I appreciate that. So first I will say, as, as an HR person, I was just kind of looking over like the last few agendas over the last few months. I noticed 37 positions have been released, resigned, temporary contracts have come to an end. That's just in March and April. Is that normal?
It's not abnormal. Most of the if we hire after the school year begins, typically we hire on a temporary contract. But the ones you're describing, most often, we likely have reopened them, and then they would apply for it, and it would be a permanent job instead of a temporary job.
So there's not
It's-
37.
no.
There's some that
Well,
are
there's
obviously
a-
retiring or resigning.
There's a fair degree, I don't know percentage-wise, of just turnover every year. There are people that retire and really mean it, and stay retired. So, and I think along those same lines, as other districts struggle, there are more people looking for work. And our HR department reports that they're getting numerous applications for each job. So that's good out of the bad, I guess.
Somebody's losses are gaining, right?
Yeah,
And vice
yeah.
versa.
So,
And then I just want to say thank you. I know you came in, on a very short-term notice last year, and you only, you were only here for a temporary position. So thank you, and I hope you have a happy retirement.
thank you, I appreciate
Because I
that.
know it's not easy.
It's frankly, it's been rewarding. That I left before. Obviously, still after that many years, you still care about what happens to the district and the people that you left behind. And it was sort of anticlimactic when I left before, because it was June of 20 when the COVID thing. In fact, the last day of work, I just left my keys and phone on the desk and turned on the burglar alarm. I was the only one there, and walked out the door and never went back. So, there are things that are more pleasant than others, but it's been good. I appreciate you saying that. Mr. Chairman, I guess I really don't have much more to offer unless there are some questions.
That's where you wait for the uncomfortable pause and just to say, are there any more questions? And I echo Simi's stuff. I've seen you around town, and I know you've been up there early and stayed late and, put in a lot of work this year, so we all appreciate it.
Thank you.
And I hope that I saw you getting a bolt in Home Depot once, so hopefully that table stayed together. But, it's interesting because I hear my statement of this before I ask for other questions would be is I hear in the budget, there's a lot of things that aren't in our control. We're trying the best we can to, move forward with a quality education, and obviously we always have work to do. So, I would encourage coming from the budget side, because I'm a numbers guy, and I'm a private business guy, and I've run businesses. I've had them do well and not, and I just try and make money for people and protect stuff, and that's what I do. But hopefully, since the board's here and the superintendent's here, and we're probably in some stage of getting a new CFO, which is great. Just encourage you to come up with ideas to run the district efficiently. I know sometimes outsourcing something that could be done by 1099 instead of, getting increases to PERS, I don't know. Well, I'm just saying services, because people are expensive, inside the district are. So just look for anything you can and keep the people around, do mass firings.
Control.
Well,
Yeah, control all those good things. So,
And I think we do. I appreciate you saying that. And I think this group, volunteered to come and, not the school board, they have to do it, but the rest of you volunteer to come and do this work.
Yeah.
And it's important, and I think, there aren't any profit centers in this business. I have nothing that can generate revenue other than more students. So, and that seems to have plateaued some, and it's not us, it's statewide. There was the COVID drop, and then they never reappeared anywhere on anybody's roster. So it's a matter of, again, prudence on how you allocate the money that you really can reasonably anticipate to collect. This budget bit, when I was in the hospital business, this was much easier. I just did the cost and raised the prices, budget balanced, everyone's happy, except the patients, but the health and insurance companies. But so it's always an allocation model here. And the other challenging piece is there's no certainty in what the state school fund's going to be when you have to put this document together.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So no, that's great. I appreciate what everybody does, and we're gonna, I don't know, in an AI world, who knows? It'll help us all out, I don't know.
yeah,
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah, I don't know, don't want to know.
Exactly. It's like, I'm out of here. So,
Chair, would you entertain a motion?
I absolutely would, unless there's any questions, but it doesn't look like there are, so I would entertain a motion.
Okay. I move that the proposed budget of the North Wasco County School District 21 for the fiscal year beginning July 1 of 2025 be approved in the aggregate amount of $64,700,381. I further move that ad valorem property taxes be levied at the rate of $5.2399 per $1,000 of taxable assessed value in support of the general fund.
I second.
Discussion? Oh, second, on the second, okay. The motion has been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. We have a budget for next year.
Thank you very much for your service, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Chair, for guiding us through that.
Thanks for reading her
We'll be-
statement, because that's
Mr.
so
Chairman,
important.
we'll be circulating the minutes for your signature probably by DocuSign at the first meeting in.
Do you want these for recycling?
Is Renata gonna
I
send those
can't,
out?
yes.
Have her call
Unless
me,
you
because for some
want to
reason
go
stuff
home and
gets sent to
memorize
my
any
junk
portion
folder.
of it.
And I've been trying to correct that, but
No, you can.
Yeah, I'll gather some stuff and recycle it. Mr. Chairman?